Howdy and welcome back to the Ineligibles podcast. I'm Will Stone. He is Chase Caldwell. He's Hayden Garland. Almost said Chase Garland.
Nope.
Boys, we're back. It's 2023. Wish you all hope you all had a Merry Christmas, and wish you a very happy 2023. But it's off to a red hot start for the Ineligibles podcast, as we're back on the 11th day of the year.
Hit the ground running.
In fact, we all had to log back into our StreamYard accounts, except for Hayden, because we hadn't been on so long. Yeah.
I logged in because I got a new camera, so you can see my beautiful face in high definition now.
Looks great, by the way.
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
No more watermark.
I don't know what that ever was. I don't know what you're talking about. I definitely paid for my my webcam service.
How's everybody doing, man? I feel like I saw Hayden at the Natty, but haven't seen Chase since last year, and haven't caught up with you guys in a while.
To clarify, I was not at the Natty. I watched it with you.
We were in Hutto watching the Natty.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like I haven't seen you in a very long time, Will. This is probably the longest I've gone in probably the last 5 years without talking to you. Which was there's no cause for. I mean, you've been traveling a lot. I've been working a lot, but I just feel like I haven't kept up with you in the last couple of weeks. Which
the last few weeks have been a mess.
Yeah,
in a good way. I mean, went to Nashville for Brittany's work, but for the Cowboys Titans game. Came back, immediately drove to Colorado to go skiing. Got back, went to my cousin's birthday in Houston, and then hosted a small gathering for the national championship. But yeah, you guys did some hunting, I think, over the past couple weeks.
Yeah. Well, you two haven't seen each other in a while. I just saw both of you within the past few days. So
right. I had the grand pleasure of getting to go with Hayden to hunt. Thanks again for having us, Hayden. It was a great time. I brought my dad along with me, and he had an immaculate time. He and Hayden's grandparents were like the best of friends. He showed me yesterday. He got your granddad's number, and then he just took all these notes on his phone. Like if you look at the notes under the contact, he has your grandparents' wedding anniversary and all this different stuff from their conversation that he just had a ball, man.
He probably knows him better than I do now.
Yeah, he had a blast, and I did too. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I love going down there. That's for sure. You got a beautiful place down there, and we always have a good time down there. There's no doubt about it. But
I don't think I knew that you could take notes on a contact.
And he has an Android. And it might be a little bit different.
That explains it.
On his phone, you can. I'm sure it's there on ours too, but yeah,
it's definitely there under the FaceTime button.
My dad is a very big birthday guy, and anniversary guy, and death date guy. He'll be he'll text me periodically and be like, "Today is your grandma's birthday and your second cousin's birthday. It would have been your great grandmother's 108th birthday, and today was the day that your third cousin died back in 1976." He's just he's very into dates, and even before he had Facebook, he would make it a point that he's going to call you on your birthday and wish you a happy birthday. Big birthday guy.
Yeah, I don't want to expose myself here, but is today Grant's birthday? Does anybody know? Is it the 11th?
It is the 11th.
I'm gonna text him anyway. Say happy birthday right now.
Yeah, we probably should.
We've got 12 January birthdays among our friend group.
If it is your birthday, Grant, happy birthday! And sorry that I didn't know it offhand.
If it is Grant, I just texted you. So
sorry for wishing you a happy birthday on a day that Will said was your birthday. So, you got a birthday coming up, Will.
Yep. I'm pretty sure his is the 11th because I think they're both double digits, or they're both same numbers. Like is the 11th, mine's 22nd. I know Austin is the 13th because it's Friday 13th, and this year it actually is on a Friday. So shout out to Austin Joyce. But enough about birthdays. I'm turning 30 in 11 days, and that's looking forward to celebrating, but not much actually being an age that starts with a 3. So that's kind of a letdown.
It's not that bad.
I'll let y'all know when I get there.
Yep. We're joining the AARP along with Hayden's girlfriend.
She's leading the pack, man.
She's the president.
She's been running that thing for a while now.
If Alexa's parents are listening to this, we're very sorry. It's just like Hayden loves to give her a hard time about her being older than him by like 3 years or whatever it is. Did we decide on a off-topic topic of the week?
I think we kind of like
birthdays.
Naturally had one.
Is that what it is? Okay, it's gonna be that. Okay,
might as well. Yeah,
we can go back to the blimp thing. The blimp didn't have to go very far for the game this weekend.
Yeah, I forgot about the blimp.
I've actually brought up blimps a lot in my day-to-day conversation after we talked about blimps.
Oh yeah, I have too.
I forgot about that entirely. That we even talked about it in the first place.
Yeah, we had a whole conversation about it at the Cotton Bowl luncheon. That basically the same conversation we had of like you never just see the blimp floating by like on its way to Arlington. Like you never like look up and like, oh, there's the blimp. He's going to the game and day after tomorrow. Because you would think that you would just watch it for like 3 days straight as it passes by your house. You know what I mean? Like
passing over Arizona on its way to
it's just kind of just floating itself along. But that's the biggest mystery to me. I've never and I've been to games where like the blimp is there and I still like never see the blimp. Like I never just like look up like, oh, there's a blimp. Crazy.
I'd hate to keep us on blimps for any longer than we already have, but
actually, I'll use it as a transition to get us to college football because I like I said the last time I talked about it was at the Cotton Bowl luncheon, and shout out to Fred McClure for being inducted into the Cotton Bowl Hall of Fame.
What a life that guy's had! Just absolutely remarkable the things he's accomplished. So big props, big shout out to Fred McClure.
Yeah, glad to know that guy.
Yeah,
great guy.
Great guy to have on your side if things get sideways.
He's a good friend. He's a good time to be around. That's for sure. But very proud to know him. That's for sure. Very proud to be a guest whenever he's up on screen. Like it's a really cool deal. But yeah, he's a Hall of Famer, and he had a great Cotton Bowl to be watching as a Hall of Famer. So.
Yeah, I guess that'll lead us into bowls. We'll get to our favorite bowls that we watch, but Cotton Bowl was one of the more exciting ones. I'm not sure what the television numbers were, but it was exciting the whole time. But then the last 5 minutes it really picked up, and Tulane pulled out a 42-41 victory over USC.
Yeah, something like that. 46-45.
46-45. Okay.
Yeah.
Great season for the Green Wave.
Yeah, they've had a great year and then capped it off with probably one of the best bowl games I've watched in recent memory.
Yeah.
And just the way that they came back and won that game at the end, like I can't think of a more exciting football game that I had like no bearing in. Like I really didn't care who won, I mean, obviously everybody always goes for the underdog, but that was that was an incredible comeback. I don't know how many points were scored in the last 5 minutes of the game, but it was like 16 maybe.
Yeah. Well, like Tulane, so Tulane scored a touchdown, and they kicked off, and the USC kick returner did something incredibly stupid. He went to fair catch the ball on like the 1 or 2 yard line and bobbled it out of bounds. So they got the ball at the 1 or 2 yard line, and then Tulane got a safety. Stuffed the running back in the backfield, got the ball back, went down and scored, and kicked the extra point.
I think they converted like 3 or 4 times on 4th down.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So like there were several times where, the game was on pins and needles.
Yeah,
and then they scored and won.
And the touchdown, they didn't call a touchdown at first. They had to go review it because like a USC defender had his arm like under the ball, like in the the Tulane, I think it was their tight end, had it trapped between like that guy's arm and his leg and his other hand, and it was pretty wild. But it was a great looking atmosphere too. So I think Tulane traveled pretty well for a private school, but great year for them. With realignment, they should be set up to really capitalize on this and kind of be one of the top dogs in the American with some of the bigger names, Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, heading out of there. But little damper on USC season. you had a really great year after going 4-8. Saw some proof of concept from Lincoln Riley, but still saw the same defense that Lincoln Riley's always had at Oklahoma. So they need to get a lot better there if they want to, really be who they want to be. But they still have Caleb Williams. He had a terrific game. It was not the offense's fault at all that they lost to Tulane. I'm trying to pick like an off the wall one that I watched. I did. Where was it? I did watch Coastal against East Carolina. East Carolina beat them 53-29. Wednesday the 28th, I watched pretty much all of these. Oregon UNC was great. That came down to like a last second field goal. Shout out to Duke and Mike Elko, 9-4 in his first season there. Terrific job by the former Aggie DC. Arkansas, Kansas went to 3 overtimes, and Texas Tech just kind of manhandled Ole Miss. Not what I expected. I thought Ole Miss would run the ball pretty well on them, and not be, just kind of just like make quick work of them. But Texas Tech took it to them, and it was never really close in that one. Poor Lane.
Yeah, poor guy. Hate that for him. We saw Jay Arnold, friend of the pod, on Duke's Mayo Bowl.
That's right. We did.
Yep. He had a nice celebrity appearance eating mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise.
People are calling it the Duke's J.O. Bowl now, is what I'm hearing. Texas and Oklahoma both lost their bowl games. It was Maryland versus
NC State.
Okay. Yeah. Texas and Oklahoma both lost their bowl games. I can't imagine losing a bowl game.
Yeah, me neither. We haven't done that in years.
Yeah.
Yep. It's factual.
I made some money on that Texas one. I took the Washington money line like right before it kicked off and was successful. Way to go, Huskies.
Well done. The Orange Bowl had a lot of orange to it.
I did watch that one. Cool story. Like outside of the obvious, orange on orange, and just 2 good football teams. But two kind of backup quarterbacks. DJ had already left at that point. Hooker was hurt, so you saw Klubnik versus Joe Milton. You're going to see a lot about Joe Milton next season. I can tell you that right now. He's always had a cannon for an arm, but it's always getting the ball to go where it needs to go. Not about the physical abilities, but in an offense like that where it's pretty easy, he could tear it up. But great season for Tennessee, man. Like you beat Alabama, your biggest rival that you haven't beaten since the freaking iPhone came out. You beat Florida. You beat almost all the other East teams. You slip up against South Carolina, and Georgia, obviously, who won the whole thing. But you cap it all off with a freaking Orange Bowl victory over Clemson. Who's been this awesome team for the past decade. Got to feel good to be a Vols fan. They've had some dark days lately, and it seems like they've really got it rolling right now.
Yeah, no doubt. The other thing we'll mention, I guess, as we're still on the topic of bowl games, is Mississippi State did a nice little tribute to Mike Leach. This is the first pod that we've recorded since Mike Leach's passing. He's definitely the first celebrity in my entire life that I've ever legitimately mourned. It was legitimately sad that Mike Leach passed away. Thought about it often there for a little bit. Almost every day I'd think about man, I can't believe he's gone. And then now anytime I think about it, same deal. It's just sad,
Yeah.
He was definitely somebody who changed the game of football. And boy, did he have some entertaining things to say. Absolutely hilarious guy at all points in time. But,
yeah. Definitely one of the all-time characters in college football. There are several tweets that from different people whenever the news broke. But my favorite one was you can't tell the story about college football without Mike Leach. He did change the game in so many ways. They showed who was on his coaching staff / roster at Tech in 2005, and it's Sonny Dice, Cliff Kingsbury, Lincoln Riley, every big name in the air raid tree is it comes off of the Mike Leach tree. And on top of that, it's sad because for his sake, he should have gotten the chance to retire and enjoy the rest of his years in Florida, where he's I think he's got a place in the Keys or something like that. But on the other hand, he went out doing what he loved. He beat his rival, in the last game of his life. It is unfortunate, and I think, like Jay said, it's one of those celebrity deaths for guys like us when we're actually kind of struck by it. And if some old singer dies, that's not unexpected. But he was still in the early 60s, right? 61 or 62, something like that.
I don't know how old he was,
but definitely had plenty of years left. But yeah, it's incredibly sad. And I thought the tribute was really cool. The helmets look great. I was hoping they would just honor him by running the ball 0 times and just passing, just running 85 pass plays in the game. But and they got the win over Illinois, so
yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that helmet, you need to go look it up. It is very cool. It's got a pirate flag with his initials down at the base of it. I am absolutely going to get the mini helmet for that thing.
Nice.
Which this is non-spawn plug here, but if you like mini helmets and you want to order mini helmets and you really just think they're cool, head on over to gridironhelmets.com. My buddy JP over there, I have bought a lot of mini helmets from that guy over the course of time, and he is super, super cool. So I was sitting here as we're talking about, I'm about to email him and be like, hey, as soon as you get one of those in, I need one of them. So that way I'm ready for it. But
yeah, that's going to be cool though, to have that one.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to go somewhere right over here. That's for sure. That way you can see it on the camera.
Yeah.
But yep.
That's pretty much it as far as non-playoff bowl games go. Rose Bowl is entertaining. Cam Rising Cam Rising got hurt in the Rose Bowl for the second straight year, which is unfortunate. Because I don't know, I feel like I have I've got a soft spot for Utah and for Utah's fans. Like they're not a blue blood, rich, kind of program, but they just win a bunch of football games every year, and they love their team, and they're red. So that's 3 wins in my heart. So, I don't want to go on a tangent here, but I've got another random mascot for a Texas town that I shouldn't know, but we drive through it every year going to Durango to go skiing. And the little town of Post is the Antelopes. So if you ever ask
Post
me that
Antelopes.
the
All
Post
right.
Antelopes. Although I've heard they're going to change their name to the Malones, but that's TBD.
Well done. Well done. He is a Texas guy.
I'll be here all week.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into the top 4. The Fiesta Bowl and Peach Bowl were both fantastic games. That Ohio State Georgia game came down to the wire. I mean, it was down to a field goal that obviously was missed.
But at midnight.
Yeah.
On New Year's Eve in Atlanta.
Yeah, it was awesome. Because I really didn't care who won that game, so I was indifferent. But really fun game to watch. TCU Michigan was really good too.
Yeah, probably the best. I think easily the best pair of semifinals that we've had since the inception of the playoff. There's usually one good one and one blowout or 2 blowouts.
Mm-hmm.
You hardly ever get 2 great semifinals. But this year we did. And I think both of them were like the 2 highest scoring semifinals in like on record. But TCU Michigan, there were some bad calls in that game, but Michigan still, could have won it had they just played better. And you can't take TCU's win away from them because they went out and executed and had 2 pick sixes and had several stops inside the red zone. And they lit them up for like a bunch of yards and points. So it was super exciting to watch. Like that one quarter, the third quarter was the highest scoring quarter, I think, in like bowl history. It's like 44 points. That was exciting. It came down to the last drive, and put TCU into the championship, which we can talk about whether they really wanted to be there or not after Monday, but that's a great accomplishment. On the other side, I did have a rooting interest. I've got some Ohio State hate in me. It's going away, but it was definitely there for this game. But we kind of said it, in the preseason and really like leading up to the game that Georgia Ohio State was, if they matched up, it'd be a hell of a game because Georgia has this juggernaut defense. Ohio State has an incredible offense. That was CJ Stroud's best game he's ever played in college. Yeah. I've been a doubter. Like I know he's super talented, but like when it came down to looking ahead to the draft, I've always been a Bryce Young guy over Stroud. Now that they're on pretty even footing in my eyes, but he just balled out. Like everyone said, he was bad under pressure. He couldn't move. He couldn't run. Couldn't make plays on the run. Well, he did all that in that game, and he played as good as he possibly could have, and was that close to getting them to the championship where they would have been favored, but. And they did that this whole season without Jackson Smith and Jigba, who was their best player, probably the best player in football. And he got hurt against Notre Dame, never played again. They did not have Travion Henderson for the last stretch of the year. Those guys had like Heisman odds going into the season, so like 2 big pieces. They're not going anywhere. They recruit super well, but It's got to sting a little bit to not like they've had so much talent and they have not won since 14. In the first year of the playoffs. So that one's got to sting. I mean, you get a 50-yard field goal from a guy that just drilled a 48-yarder right before that, and it just wasn't anywhere close. And definitely feel for Noah Ruggles, and would hate to see his DMs.
Well, but at the same time, it's like, all right, well, I mean, the rest of the team put him in that position too.
Sure.
If they were tied up, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal. If they were up by a touchdown, they wouldn't have been in that position to begin with. So I mean, at the end of the day, that's not fair to a guy to be like, well, you missed, but I'm sure that's the worst part in football for a player. I would think it'd be harder to be a kicker than it would be to be a quarterback.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a tough situation to be in for that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, both of those games were great games.
Oh yeah.
And to me, I was very excited about the championship. Really expected a great game for the championship, and was honestly shocked by what I saw. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. That I've never seen anything like it.
It was a little jarring, because like Georgia does that to teams like Vanderbilt and Mercer or whoever else they play, UT Martin. Not to teams that play in the championship for college football. Going into the game, obviously Georgia was favored and should have been by a sizable margin, but just because of the talent and whatnot. But like, part of me thought TCU was just blowout proof. Like, you can't blow them out. Like, they could go play the freaking Buffalo Bills and only lose by 8 points or something like that. And I was curious because I haven't really followed like TCU in terms of like power ratings and like SP plus. So I was like, are they lucky or are they actually like really good? And they were a top 10 SP plus team, but they just felt like a team of destiny, and their luck just kind of ran out a little bit on Monday. And Georgia played their A game and TCU played their C game, and the result was 65-7, and not very pretty.
Yeah, it's like they were a Cinderella story that ended in 2022. It didn't carry on with them to 23. It really, like, I was shocked. I really, really and truly was. I would say that I probably, in the back of my head, I figured Georgia was going to win that game. I figured they would probably win it handily. Didn't expect that handily. But by 2 or 3 scores is what I kind of figured. But I still, in the back of my head, was also like, oh, TCU's going to pull this thing out, and really was going for TCU ultimately. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say because, like, I would hate to have that. I mean, imagine if we go to the national championship next year, we would be in the same amount of national championship drought as TCU was. And to finally go and just to be all excited about the best season ever, and then just get absolutely embarrassed, like, that would be, I don't know if that's worse than just not going.
Would you? I think I know the answer to this. Excuse me. Would you rather be? Would you rather A&M have the result that Ohio State had, where you miss close on a field goal, to go to the championship, or would you rather get there and just get blown off the field?
Give me the close loss.
Yeah, I think
so
I would
too.
do the close loss too. It's just because at least then you have the unknown of, well, maybe if we would have been number 3, we would have won the national championship. But
and you still made the playoff.
Yeah,
you lose under pressure, not get blown out the stadium.
Not by having worse players than the other team by a wide margin.
Yeah, but that part has got to be terrible. But at the same time, they were there.
They were there.
They made it to the game. They did everything up until then. And you know what? If we're gonna shrug off like, oh well, we lost to App State, but we had a bad game, like they lost to the best team in the nation in the biggest game of the nation, where every single college football fan was watching.
Yeah,
and you know they had a bad game ultimately. So I don't think. I mean, at the end of the day, they were there. They have the talent to, replicate down the road. So it's more of a cool story from them coming off of the 5-7 season with the first year head coach and making it all the way. That I'm not gonna dog on them at all because, well, number one, they've been dogged on way too much, 65 points much.
been frogged on.
Yeah.
I think their fans are. I think they understand that. I think they're like, hey, we had a great year that we're happy with and should be happy with. And, like they don't expect to win the title. I bet they I hate to say they were just happy to be there, but I'm sure they were happy to be there. I mean,
I might kind of argue that sentiment actually. Like, I feel like TCU, like if I was a fan of TCU, I would feel like A&M fans feel this year. Like you're so excited about it. Like your excitement is at a literal all-time high. You've never been this gung-ho about a team. Like you've never been that excited. And then you just absolutely get crushed.
Yeah.
Like all your hopes and dreams ripped out from underneath you.
But the difference is they lost to Georgia and we lost to App State.
The big difference, yeah.
At least theirs didn't last 3 months.
Right.
Just lasted 3 hours and then it's over.
I don't know. It felt like 3 months.
Yeah.
And they did get Garrett Riley as their offensive coordinator.
Right.
So
for us, it was just pain everywhere.
Yeah, pain all around us.
I mean, we say though that it was, they were a good team, but I just went back and looked at their schedule, and 10 of their games they won by 2 scores or less. And seven of them were 1 score. So like the ball bounces a different way a few different times in a couple of those games. They're not in that conversation. Whereas Georgia pretty much dominated every single game they played, save for a game here and there.
Yeah.
Looking back, it's like, I don't know, hindsight's 20/20, but at the same time, you look at it too, you're like, yep, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I want to use that point to argue a point that I've seen all over Twitter recently about, like, people are using the TCU blowout as a reason to not be excited about college football expansion, the playoff expansion. They think that it, we already have too many. That's why you saw TCU get blown out in the national championship game. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. Like, I think that's more of a reason why, we need more games. And I can't really fathom, because like I've heard Josh Pate say the same thing, like that we already have too many. It should have just been the top 2 and that's it. There shouldn't be a playoff whatsoever, which I think is just absolutely ridiculous. And I can't fathom how they would think that a Michigan. Well, let's see who's number 2. What was TCU? Was TCU the 2 seed going into?
They were 3.
Okay, so then it would have been Michigan, right? So Georgia, Michigan might not have fared any differently, I
think that's a flawed argument too, because if the more teams you put in, like, somebody's going to get blown out, but eventually your better teams are still going to rise to the top, even because like Bama would have made it in if we had an expanded playoff.
Right.
Probably would have won a few games.
So if Bama played TCU, do you think they would have won? I think so. So then Bama might have been the one that ended up in the national championship. Do you think that Georgia, Alabama would end up with that kind of a blowout? I don't think so. And
the blowouts will happen, but they'll happen sooner. Like, you'll have a blowout in the second round or first round instead of in the big game.
Right.
But I think the people that hate expansion and want to go back to 2, they think the sport shouldn't be about the champion. It should be about, the Rose Bowl and the Peach Bowl and the Cotton Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. And, like, you won the Sugar Bowl. That's a great year. You should celebrate that. Well, like I don't want to say that's a participation trophy, but like
That's a
like
participation trophy.
in the NFL, I don't care about winning my division except for playoff implications to get to the Super Bowl to win the Super Bowl. Like I want to
Yeah.
win the whole freaking thing. Like I don't care about winning the Orange Bowl. Like that's great.
Winning a game.
That's
Yeah,
a step on the way to where we want to be. But
Right.
you know, and you know, maybe it's silly. Maybe it's like, hey, there's 10 teams that are going to win a title for the next 100 years. Maybe that's true, but at least give us the chance to see those games. And you know, it just takes one upset. It takes, you know, Stetson Bennett throwing 3 or 4 picks, and Georgia could have lost to anyone else in the, you know, in a hypothetical 12-team playoff.
Right. You could have had Tulane make it up there, you know.
Oh yeah. In fact,
I
I heard some folks talking about if this year had a 12-team playoff, TCU would have played Tulane in the first game. Like
Yeah,
that would have been a
which would have
banger.
been a great game. Yeah, absolutely.
And then the winner
So-
plays Utah. So like, it's going to lead to some really exciting matchups. And like maybe, you know, maybe at the end of that, Georgia still blows somebody out, but who cares? Like,
Yeah. Now, does expansion happen year after next? Or does
yes,
Yeah.
we have one more year of 4, and then 12.
I can't wait for that. It'll
Yeah.
be here for you, know, and I'm sure.
Any closing thoughts on the game that was on 65-7 on the season from a national perspective?
Not really, other than I can't wait for expansion. Expansion is
Yeah.
going to be a lot better. But yeah,
I did
can't
wanna-
say that I have.
I did want to bring up about the Ohio State Georgia game. Georgia won the title this year because Kirby Smart called a timeout on a fake punt. If Ohio State, like they called a fake punt, executed it, turns out Kirby called a timeout right before the snap, and they ended up punting it instead of, you know, trying the fake. If he doesn't call that timeout in time or at all, they lose. They're not the champions this year. And it's crazy. Like that's how thin the margins are in some of these games. And like, you know, there's, you know, obviously there's, you know, 140 some odd plays in a football game, and, you know, anyone can change the outcome. But, you know, a field goal make, you know, at the end of the game, a timeout called on a fake punt, like the best receiver for Ohio State getting knocked out of the game. You know, all kinds of things happened, and I don't know. It's just like I'm happy for Georgia, you know, after a 40-year drought to get 2 in a row. Obviously, probably the best team in the sport this year. I guess I'll use this to segue into my tease of my blog post that'll be going up soon, hopefully tomorrow, on theineligibles.com. But I did a way too early top 25, and I'm not going to go through all of them right here, but I did split them up into tiers, kind of like we did last offseason with our top 15s. And in tier 1, it's just Georgia. Like, I don't see anybody else that's in that tier. Like, yes, Ohio State and Bama and other teams are talented and good, but not in the way that Georgia is right now. I think Georgia would have whooped Alabama if they played them this year. Maybe not 65-7, but probably by, you know, 10 points or more.
Sure.
They're what Alabama has been for most of our, you know, college football lifespan is what Georgia has now become. And they're just the new villain, the new target, and it's the new person that we all other teams strive to be. You know, we want A&M to be that, you know, the top dog, and everyone hate us for an actual reason, not just because we have money.
They're Alabama East.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, Will, this is one of the things that I really love about you and enjoy on this podcast is whenever I watch football games, like something monumental will happen, like that timeout. And I'll be like, oh my God, I can't wait to talk about that on the podcast. And then when it comes down to record, I completely forget that it even happened until you it's like you're like Jimbo, like you have like an eidetic memory on what happened. and then it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that happening. But you're right, like that was a huge, like that won them a national championship. If it wasn't for that, so that's some of the fun that college football brings. Is like if that wouldn't have happened, it would have completely changed the landscape of history.
Yeah. No, like that was the one thing that I wanted to get to when talking about that game. Like if I was an actual like writer, my headline would have been Georgia wins title because of timeout on a fake punt. Yeah. Like that's the lead.
No doubt about it.
Real quick, and then we'll get to some A&M stuff. But any guesses on who my number 2 team is? I feel like it's kind of hot takey, but not like it's not scalding hot, but it's pretty hot.
I'm gonna say Tennessee.
I was gonna say that.
That's a good guess.
I'll go USC.
It is USC. Great job, Hayden. I was about to say it's Texas A&M. I'm just kidding. Although I had us at 4 going into last year, that turned out well. No, I put USC there. I think with the turnover at quarterback in the big teams, obviously Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Stetson Bennett, put some respect on my man's name. A lot of the top teams are losing their quarterbacks. And Caleb Williams is just so much better than pretty much every other quarterback on a contending team. I think Drake May's pretty good, but I think North Carolina might stink next year. Like they lost so much in the portal. It doesn't even matter that their quarterback is good. So USC still needs to fix some things defensively, but they're still a portal destination for the top transfers. And I think they're going to be really good again next year and could break through and win it all. But man, give me a game with USC's offense against the Georgia defense, and that's some good football right there.
Well, speaking of transfers, I saw right before we got on that Anthony Lucas announced that he was going there.
Yeah. So speaking of good defensive transfers, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Of all the guys we've lost, I really hate that one. Man, I hate losing him.
Yeah, there's several that I'm just like torn up about.
Yeah. But Tennessee is a good guess, though. I've got them. I think they'll be really good again next year. 2 teams I'm super high on, and I'm gonna bang this drum all off season, are Penn State and Florida State. Both got big guys to come back from the draft that would have gone in the top 15. Recruiting very well, hitting the portal very well. I don't know. I know we just ended the season, but I am pumped for next season. Not from an A&M perspective, maybe, but definitely from a national perspective.
Yeah.
But from an Aggie perspective, we can get to that right now.
Let's do it.
Everyone's heard the news. Everyone's tweeted about it, talked about it, said what they think. But words I never thought I'd say, Bobby Petrino will be on the A&M coaching staff next season as the offensive coordinator.
Woo.
Thoughts, feelings, reactions.
I'm so like mixed up on it myself. I want to be excited about it. Like I think if we weren't coming off of a terrible year like we were, I might be more excited about it just because I would still kind of be a little bit more gung-ho about A&M football. But again, I want to be excited about it. Like if you look at his record and his history, like he runs some really good offenses. There's no doubt about that. I think like I've seen it compared to Nick Saban. Nick Saban's always been looked at as like the rehabilitation head coach, that you get these coaches like, Sark and Coach Sumlin and coaches that are down.
Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin, and brings them back up to prominence. So like maybe that's the design there. But I think like, well, I mentioned this before we started. If you just search on YouTube Bobby Petrino, like I wanted to do some just research about Bobby Petrino, and like, okay, I mean, admittedly, I'm not the best when it comes to saying like, oh, this coordinator is better than this coordinator or whatever. But if you just go on YouTube and you're like, oh, I want to watch a video about Bobby Petrino, the very first video that comes up is called "The Biggest Scumbag in Sports Who's Still Coaching." That's a little bit that's a little bit worrisome, if you don't know anything at all, that's the very first thing that you say.
Yeah.
And granted, like, he's burned a lot of bridges in his career, so that's why you see a lot of that. Some things that you look at, I kind of look at and I'm thinking, well, maybe that's been blown out of proportion through the years. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big fan of having a coach that's looked at like that. That's like a villain. Especially because I feel like A&M in recent memory has become this like villain of like just, everything looks bad.
We're just embracing it.
Yeah, when you look bad or back over the last couple years at just different things that have happened at the time, like as an A&M fan, and I know like a lot of people dogged on us during these times, but as an A&M fan, it was kind of like, oh, well, okay, like that's fine. Like when you look at like Jimbo, really griping about the college football playoff and us getting left out in 2020. And then his whole deal about, Nick Saban and just the war that they went at with that. And like, if you clump all of that together, it's like college football really hates A&M right now. And how to make them hate us even more is to get one of the most hated head coaches in college football history. Like I don't know. It's weird to be on that side of the table. And so, but all that aside, like that's what everybody's focused on. And I think that's why everybody's like, okay, that's not what I'm most upset about with the whole thing. What I'm most upset about with the whole thing is like it leaked that Bobby Petrino was being interviewed for the job. And it was out there that, okay, hey, he's interviewing for this job. But it was very, very obvious that he was not our first choice. Like it was very obvious that there was another coordinator or two or three that we were looking at, and we could get Bobby if we needed it, if we needed a fallback, but we're holding out for these others. And so whenever he took that UNLV job, it was like, okay, well, maybe we got our guy, maybe we feel good about this whole thing. And then to go back and hire him, it was just very blatantly obvious that we did not get our guy.
Yeah.
That's what I am most concerned about, because I'm like, if you have to hire your second or third or fourth option, I don't know how far down the rung he was, but, it makes you start thinking like, how far was he down on that list? Because he obviously wasn't number one. You always like to think that your alma mater gets the number one guy that they want, especially when you're A&M, you can throw money around.
Yeah.
But this was very clear that he was not our number one guy, but we settled on him anyways. That's worrisome to me, because it's like, you want to coach, like the whole design of us getting a coordinator to come in and be a play caller is so that he could change up all the woes that Jimbo has had in his offense. And in a situation like that, you want to make sure that you get your number one guy. You want to get somebody that will come in and change the game. That's not a time that you want to settle with somebody. And I feel like that's what we did.
I think that's a fair concern. Whenever you were talking about being hated, it made me think of, which also that's so like diametrically opposed to like the culture of A&M, like the school. Like we're like
right,
the good old boys, and we got what you call it, Why am I blanking on what they're called? The values or whatever. The relics. What are they called?
Core values.
The core values. We got those. We're the nice fans that are like, oh yeah, thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
But then we just go hire a bunch of a-holes that everybody hates, and like we're constantly getting dragged on Twitter, and it's weird. Like I've embraced it. Like I don't even care if people, like I had to log on to Twitter every single day for 4 months straight and see us get crapped on by everybody in the country.
We're that meme right now. Are we the baddies?
Yeah, are we the bad guys?
But during the Georgia Ohio State game, when it looked like Ohio State was going to win, they were like, what could possibly piss off the most people than a Ohio State TCU championship game? And someone said A&M versus UCF would piss way more people off.
Isn't that the truth?
I think the more I think about it, and I hate when people do this, but I'm going to do it. When people say, "Oh, it's only going to be, it's going to be a home run or it's going to be awful," like either we go 10-2 or we're going to go 4-8, But
Yeah.
I feel that way about this. Like if Jimbo and Petrino can get along, we're going to score a crap ton of points next year.
Yeah.
And it's going to work out really well. If they fight, if they, do things to spite each other and get into arguments and whatnot, it's going to be bad and it'll be worse than last year. But part of me is sad because like I wanted the Garrett Riley, they looked at the guy from Washington. I think his name is Grubb or something like that. That would have been an awesome hire. I love what they do with their offense. But part of me thinks, maybe we needed someone like Petrino who isn't going to back down from Jimbo. Like, if you go hire Garrett Riley, Jimbo is going to be like, this is hypothetical, but Jimbo could be like, hey, you young whippersnapper, this is my offense, this is my team. We're going to do what I say. Petrino's not going to accept that. He's going to be like, he's like, I'm just as old as you. I've got, I'm a multimillionaire myself after all the jobs I've been at. I'm going to run what I want to. And if not, I'm just going to leave. So I think they had to come to some kind of agreement for him to come here.
In some ways, it's kind of like Trump getting elected. And it's like, why Trump was so sought after a bunch of people is like, oh, well, he's not a politician. He's going to go in, he's going to tell it like it is. And he's going to, so yeah, I could agree with that. Like that he's not going to back down. And I mean, definitely with his track record, if he's either not going to back down or he's just going to leave mid-season,
Yeah. Wouldn't be the first time he's done that.
Yeah. But to put like, again, I want to be excited about it. Like there's part of me that's like, just embrace it and, enjoy the ride. So like there are some benefits that I'm seeing that I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's a good thing. One of which is how Arkansas fans have taken the whole thing, because if you look at the way Arkansas fans have reacted, they're shaking in their boots. They're like, oh my gosh, A&M's a force to be reckoned with now. There's no stopping them at this point. Like Arkansas fans are more like scared about this hire than A&M fans are excited about it. And so that part about it is interesting to me because they have a more intimate knowledge of how he is as a coach, that I think, maybe that proves to be a good thing for us. But I don't know. It's really a Hail Mary play, I feel like, from Jimbo, where like, I mean, and I will say kudos to Jimbo on you're really, really stretching it out there. You're doing everything that you can to make this change. So that part about it is good. Like I like that. Okay. We're not just hiring a guy and, just to save face, like I think about when Coach Sumlin was about to get fired and he just like fired LJ and hired a new strength and conditioning coach. And it's like, yeah, that's what caused us not to win those games. Sumlin was our strength and conditioning.
Right.
And so like, that's just a desperation play at that point.
Yeah.
I don't feel I feel like this is a desperation play, but it's like, hey, we need to make a significant change because if we don't, we're going to crumble.
Right.
If we do, it could pay off to your point of like, we may have a TCU Cinderella season next year with this, or we could be worse than we were this year. You know, I mean, it is a very, very widespread there of what we might expect. And so I think that's why we're all like mildly hesitant on it because we don't know what to expect. I mean, it's going to be completely different and hopefully it'll be a good thing. You know, I that remains to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you 1,000% on the type of hire that it is, like with the Hail Mary. It's not rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. It's not like, you know, hey, we know we're going to fire him. Let's just try this one last thing, see if maybe it works. It's not that. Like in 2017, the talent had deteriorated, and I think we all knew what was coming unless we won 10 games somehow, which we did not. And then we changed coaches, and most people could probably see that coming from a mile away, especially after halftime after the end of the UCLA game. But this is different. Like we still have plenty of talent. We have a great young quarterback and some great skill guys, and a very talented defense. If it works, yeah, you could go win 11 games next year if it works out. And the Arkansas stuff is giving me life as well. like that program never has a single good thing to say about us. Like we could beat them 100-0. They'd be like, oh, they got lucky, blah blah blah. We go hire their old coach. They're like, oh man, like they're in freaking doomsday scenario over there. just a full scale panic on what they think is coming. Like they're like, as long as they have him, we're never going to beat them. Like we're never beating them until he's gone.
Yeah, and I mean that part is exciting to me. I mean that's fun to look at. I mean he's had some good success in college football, and so and obviously at Arkansas he beat A&M several times at Arkansas, and so I mean he's not a bad coach, but he's just kind of a bad guy. I mean I don't know. I mean just his morals do not they don't represent our core values. There's no doubt about that, you know.
Yeah.
But at this point, if we're going to be the bad guy in college football, you might as well go all the way. And you know, we may be looking back a few years from now saying, "Thank God we finally got somebody that understands like our values." Or we might be looking at it like, "Hey, here's what we had to sell our soul to the devil to finally get that national championship," you know. So
I would rather be what Georgia is and have the whole world hate us than be the nice kid on the block and go 8-4 every year.
Yeah, no doubt. We at least need that, and then we can go back to going 8-4 for the next 80 years.
Yeah.
And have nice people. But
I will say this is like super nerd, but I went back and watched some of the highlights from when Petrino and Louisville and Lamar Jackson just flat out destroyed Florida State in Jimbo in 2016. It was like 64-20 or something crazy like that. It was 60-something to 20-something. Like it was an incredible blowout. Like they couldn't stop Lamar and they couldn't stop their offense. But what I did was I watched both offenses because I'm like, okay, well, this is still Jimbo's old offense or Jimbo's offense that I'm getting to watch here. And it reminded me so much of what we saw this year from Florida State. I mean, like there was, so many times where, they'd get in 3rd and long and it seemed like they had no plan. Like they had no plan for a blitz and, poor, what's his name? DeAndre Francois. He's just getting killed. and like their players weren't bad, but like there was no outlet for him to throw the ball. Like
Yeah.
his receivers are still, getting into their routes, and he's getting his head taken off. Whereas when you watch, some of the stuff that Louisville was doing, it was a lot more creative. And there's some people that think that Petrino just runs Jimbo's same exact offense, and it's going to be the same thing that we just saw. It's not that at all, really. It seems to me that Petrino runs a West Coast style the way it's meant to be run, running the ball effectively, running play action, moving guys around. There's more creativity to it than what we've seen in the past. Even just the way they run their screens is better than what we've ever done under Jimbo.
Yeah.
And we might get into some more of that in the off season, but early returns. Yeah, Bobby's not a great guy. I wouldn't want him, to be my kid's high school coach. But, this isn't high school football. This is college football. It's a huge enterprise. And is like he's not the face of our program. That's still Jimbo. And I think I'm fine with that. But on the other side, this frees up Jimbo, theoretically to be more of a CEO and, have a better impact on the day-to-day and not have to worry about the offense. Like maybe that's held him back in, and also this is a hard time to be a coach. Like there's so many changes. There's a portal, there's NIL, there's under the table deals. Maybe it was just too much, I do wonder if you start seeing, like you saw Ryan Day announce he's not going to call plays anymore. And that's Ohio State. They just went to the freaking playoffs. Like it's too much to ask for one person to do. And we may still have a crappy offense next year, but at least it should be, I feel like we're set up better next season than what we've had in the past. And that's reason enough for excitement.
Yeah. I hope we don't have a crappy offense. As we go into the off season, like there's a lot that I could probably say right now about the transfer portal and all the guys that we're losing and all of that. But I really don't want to get into it too much because, we've already seen a few guys come back out of the portal. We don't know who we're going to end up with from the portal. So I think it's something that I'm kind of waiting more until we get closer to the season to be able to say, okay, here's who we're running with, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. So as it starts to shake out to where we can see, here's our offensive players that we have, here's Bobby Petrino's style. Maybe I get more excited as the season draws closer. Right now there's just too much unease and too much, up in the air to know what exactly to expect. I mean, just looking at it right here, it looks like we have more tight ends on the roster than we do wide receivers. That's a problem. But maybe we hit that portal really hard, and that is no longer the case. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
it's going to be a different perspective, different journey from this podcast, because since our inception, we've been extremely positive going into each season, in the off season. Not so much anymore.
Yeah.
We're not going to sit here and predict, 10, 11 wins. We're going to tell you, hey, this could be really good. This could be really bad. We don't really know till we see it. So
yeah.
I'll hold my breath until I see that. Y'all are going to psych yourselves up come August.
I won't. Like I've never been this like just uncertain of the future. Even when someone was like on his way out, I was kind of like, yeah, but we're gonna win a few games. This is more like, I mean, in my time as a A&M fan and really like somebody that just follows A&M football religiously, this is the worst season I've ever seen. So I've never felt like this before. And so I think I probably can psych myself up to some degree. But as it sits right now, like I'm reading a lot of things, from different A&M writers and things like that, where they're trying to pitch it as a good thing that we're losing. Like all these players, like, oh yeah, well they're, they didn't really play. They were buried on the depth chart, and I'm looking at them like we're losing 27 players. That's not. I'm not going to paint that out to be like it's a good thing. That's not a good thing. There's people like Keith Brown and even Devin Price in the portal, and I'm like, they shouldn't be there. That's been mishandled to the degree that, yeah, I'm not really happy about it, and I'm not going to make it out to be like I am just because this is my team. So, but maybe we see, a lot of things start to happen over the next month, and going into late signing day, maybe suddenly it starts to shape up, and maybe I do start to get all excited come August. I don't know. I can't say it. It's just I'm entering unknown territory right now because I've never seen a 5-7 A&M team in my following of A&M. So.
Yeah, I will say most of the guys from A&M's side that went into the portal, I'm okay with like 90% of them. There's a couple I would really want back. But I'm slightly concerned about our lack of portal activity. Mainly just to have 85 guys. Like, you can't go into a season with 70 players. Like, it's not feasible. You're gonna have walk-ons. Taking important snaps like in November, if you do that. So they've gotten 2 good ones. We talked about Tony Grimes on our last podcast. He did commit to A&M. I think he's moving in. I think he's already here actually. So they got Tony Grimes, former A&M target and former 5-star corner from North Carolina, and they got Sam McCall to transfer in from Florida State, another former, I think, top 50 recruit in the last class. So both DBs, Grimes a corner, not sure where McCall will play. But they've had guys, they've offered guys, and those guys have gone elsewhere. Or just, like most of those guys never even visited here. Like they just hit the portal, we offer, they go somewhere else. And I know Jimbo's spoken in the past about being anti-tampering. Well, buddy, you're going to have to do some tampering because who's tampering? Georgia, Alabama, USC, everyone is doing it. And, at some point, if you're going to be in this kind of party, you're going to have to, play by the rules the way everybody else is. But
it looks like we also got a linebacker out of Rice, Aiden Ciano. I didn't even hear about that one. Because that was yesterday, it looks like.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I don't know much about him.
I don't either. I'll have to do some research.
But I think you still need at least one receiver. You probably need 2 receivers, but you need one that's going to come in and start. And hell, even I would take some linemen. I'd take 2 linebackers. I'd take another DB. You need bodies. I mean, like I know we lost some quote unquote depth guys, but you need depth. Especially if the last 2 years injuries have just ravaged A&M, and hopefully it's not the case next year, but you still need to be prepared if it does happen. So, also there's a whole nother portal time period like after this one, after spring ball. So you're going to see guys hit the portal after spring ball, and maybe we get a couple of them, but there's spots there, and I hope that we take advantage of that.
Yeah, me too. But
anything else? Look, we're caught up pretty well there.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think over the next few weeks or months, we'll probably hit more and more recruiting and what the team looks like, because there's been a lot of changes. So there's a lot to talk about at different positions. And I think that part's good for the podcast because we have a lot to go over. But as of right now, I think we're in just a holding pattern to see how's it all shake out.
Yeah. Yeah. And the like some of the freshmen, like the early enrollees, they moved in this week. The transfers, obviously, workouts will be starting soon. You're going to start hearing that buzz about, this guy, he's really coming on. The way Connor's throwing the football right now, it's got people wowed in the Bright Complex. I don't know when spring ball starts. I'm assuming sometime in March, right? Late February.
Probably, maybe late February.
So we got that. Aggie basketball, which we don't really touch on that much, has turned a corner. They are thumping number 20 Mizzou right now, 48-33 at Reed Arena. Aggie baseball will be starting up before we know it. We still have signing day to get through, like the late signing day, but still signing day nonetheless. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff to talk about. Pour one out for the 2022 season. Not great for A&M, maybe great for the rest of the sport, but I for one am glad it's over and cannot wait for 2023.
Yeah, same here.
Well, I need to get better at these outros. I never know how to end these things.
Yeah, me neither.
But you talk about how awkward it is, and you kind of carry on with that, and then you just go with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where
Garland.
you just say like, "All right, bye."
He's Chase Caldwell. You can follow them at Garland on the Mantle. Sorry, that's not it anymore. You don't have to call me Garland on Instagram.
That's it. I was like, I don't think that's it anymore.
And Texas Aggie/Aggies 15. And I'm Will Stone at Will Stone CFB. And Will Stone on LinkedIn.
I'm Hayden Garland on LinkedIn.
Bye.